It started with a phone call I almost didn't answer. My cousin's voice was tight, careful, as she told me Dad had changed his will. I laughed at first, thinking it was some kind of misunderstanding. Dad always said his wishes were simple, that family came first. But as she read the details, my laughter faded. My name was barely mentioned, replaced by legal terms and distant relatives I barely knew. The shock hit me in waves, first confusion, then a hollow ache in my chest. I replayed every recent conversation with Dad, searching for clues I'd missed. Had I done something wrong? Was this punishment, or just a mistake? The disbelief clung to me, heavy and cold. I wanted to call him, to demand an explanation, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was sit in silence, feeling the ground shift beneath me. News of the will spread quickly, and the house filled with uneasy whispers. Relatives gathered in corners, their voices low and guarded, casting glances that lingered too long. My aunt avoided my eyes, while my brother paced the hallway, fists clenched in frustration. Every conversation felt loaded, every smile forced. Old resentments bubbled to the surface, and alliances formed in hushed tones. Some family members tried to comfort me, but their words rang hollow, as if they were already choosing sides. The sense of betrayal was thick in the air, settling over us like a storm cloud. I watched as the family I thought I knew began to fracture, each of us retreating into our own corners, unsure who to trust or what would happen next. As the tension grew, my mind drifted back to simpler times. I remembered sitting on Dad's lap as a child, his arms wrapped around me, promising that family would always come first. He'd tuck me in at night with stories about loyalty and love, his voice steady and warm. On birthdays, he'd whisper that I was his pride, that nothing could ever change that. Those memories felt golden, untouched by the bitterness of the present. Now, each promise echoed painfully, a reminder of how much had changed. The man who once made me feel safe and cherished seemed like a stranger. I clung to those childhood moments, desperate to understand how we'd gone from unconditional love to this cold, legal distance. I couldn't accept the will's changes without searching for reason. I started quietly, asking relatives if they knew anything, but their answers were vague or evasive. My aunt shrugged, saying Dad had seemed distant lately. My brother muttered about old arguments, hinting at grudges I hadn't known existed. I replayed every recent conversation with Dad in my mind, looking for hidden meanings or warnings I'd missed. Had I disappointed him somehow? Was there something he never told me? I even sifted through old letters and emails, hoping for a clue. The more I searched, the more lost I felt. Every answer led to more questions, and the truth seemed to slip further away with each passing day. That night, sleep refused to come. I lay in the dark, listening to the quiet hum of the house, my mind racing with memories and regrets. Every shadow on the wall reminded me of a moment with Dad, laughter at the dinner table, quiet talks on the porch, the comfort of his steady presence. Now, those memories felt distant, almost unreachable. I replayed every choice I'd made, wondering if I could have changed anything. The ache of loss pressed heavy on my chest, and tears slipped down my cheeks. In that restless silence, I realized I needed to say what I couldn't say out loud. I reached for a pen and paper, determined to pour my heart into a letter, hoping it might bring some kind of peace. With trembling hands, I began to write, letting the words spill out without holding anything back. I wrote about the pain of feeling forgotten, the confusion that came with Dad's decision, and the memories that still tied me to him. I confessed my fears, that maybe I wasn't enough, that maybe I'd failed him in ways I didn't understand. I wrote about childhood promises, about the love that once felt unbreakable, and how lost I felt now. I didn't hide my anger or my sadness. I let every emotion find its place on the page. The letter wasn't just for Dad or the family, it was for me, a way to make sense of the hurt and find my own truth. By the time I finished, my tears had dried, replaced by a fragile sense of relief and hope. The day of the family gathering arrived, and the air was thick with tension. We sat in the living room, each person perched on the edge of their seat, eyes darting between faces. No one knew exactly why I'd called everyone together, but the uncertainty only made the silence heavier. My hand shook as I unfolded the letter, feeling the weight of every gaze on me. Some looked wary, others curious, a few openly skeptical. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. This was my chance to speak the truth, to bridge the distance that had grown between us. As I began to read, the room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the words that might finally break the silence. I read each word slowly, letting the emotions settle in the room. I spoke of childhood laughter, of Dad's stories and the warmth that once filled our home. I admitted how lost I'd felt since learning about the will, how the change made me question my place in the family. I shared memories of Dad's promises, the lessons he taught about love and loyalty, and how much I miss the man who always put family first. My voice trembled as I confessed my pain, but I also spoke of hope, hope that we could find our way back to each other, that honesty could heal what anger had broken. I reminded them that family isn't measured by inheritance or legal documents, but by the love we choose to give. When I finished, the silence was heavy, but it felt different, full of possibility. As my final words faded, I saw tears glistening in more than one pair of eyes. My mother reached for my hand, her voice breaking as she whispered an apology. My brother wiped his face, finally letting go of the anger he'd carried. Even my stoic aunt looked away, dabbing at her eyes. For the first time since the will was revealed, we weren't divided by suspicion or hurt. Instead, there was a quiet understanding, a shared grief for what we'd lost and a fragile hope for what we might rebuild. The letter had opened wounds, but it also offered a chance to heal in the days that followed. Something shifted between us. Conversations grew softer, and old grudges began to fade. We started to share stories again, not just about the will, but about the memories that made us a family. I realized that honesty, even when it hurts, can be the first step toward healing. My father's decision would always sting, but it no longer defined us. Instead, we found strength in our vulnerability and hope in our willingness to forgive. As I looked around the table, I knew we were moving forward, not as strangers, but as a family learning to love again.